Saw 2 comes out, and my dialogue is on the screen, and I'm listening to my dialogue coming out of those characters' mouths.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Leave It to Baker. I appreciate you checking out the channel. So today, I'm going to cut to the chase. We got a long segment coming up here on Hollywood Stories. We're going to be talking to Erin, a good friend of mine that I had met when I lived in Hollywood. We're going to talk about things that I did, a lot of stuff that she did. So I hope you enjoy. Let's set this up. We're going to give her a call. All right, guys. She says she's ready to go, so we're gonna give her a call, and let's see. Without getting. Hey there. How you doing?
My tripod is not cooperating right now.
Uh-oh. Okay.
But it looks good. You want to set up the camera?
Yeah.
On this side? So at least we have that. I'm just going to fiddle around with this and see if anything good comes of it. All right, ready when you are.
Yeah. I mean, we can just go right at it here. Just we're gonna we're gonna segue into LA and you know how different it is where you're at compared to Los Angeles. So when you first got there, because you had moved there, how long? It was maybe a year or so after you had gone there for that shoot that we did. When was?
Like which time? So
that was
I
2006.
started in Austin.
Right?
I moved. Okay, so I graduated from SMU Film School and then moved from Dallas to Austin because the Austin scene was getting hot. And so I did a lot of commercials for Nike and a bunch of people. But I did music videos and a lot of commercials. And I tried to make my own studio happen at that time. It was just on the cusp of digitalization from analog to digital. And we were getting into kind of the home studio where everything was becoming more affordable. So I tried to get a business partner to invest and things were going well. But then his business faltered, so he pulled out. I'm glad he did because we were about to spend like $300,000 more than we needed to. So
wow,
it was a good thing that it didn't work out at that moment. So instead, we just kind of did what we could with recreational, local stuff. And then, I don't know at what point, we met a bunch of people. We met Billy Bob Thornton and Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, and we got like really entrenched in, and Harry Knowles with Ain't It Cool News was really hot back then. And we got kind of in that scene, and that's how we met Cargill, who went by Massa Worm and wrote for Ain't It Cool News for a long time. And then we all became friends. We had this little like cinephile, like, you know, we were crazy about the movies clique. Right. And we went to every film festival and every opening and everybody's like test screening. And so we were at like, you know, when Billy Bob was going to premiere a movie, you know, he had it, All the Pretty Horses, he did like the preview screening. And so we were we're out there hanging out with Robert Towne and talking about Chinatown, and I'm like freaking out because he's my idol, and like hanging out with all these really cool people. And that was just kind of the burgeoning Austin film scene. South by Southwest was blowing up, and everybody was getting really excited about movies. And you had Kevin Smith hanging out with us, and we were friends with the Wilson brothers, and like just like a whole bunch of people. Like just Wes Anderson was hanging out at the Inwood Bar in Dallas, and that's where he grew up. And and Luke Wilson and everybody just like hanging out at a bar. You just kind of like, and it's a movie theater, so you're talking to people before the movie, and then you go to the movie, and you don't think he's not Wes Anderson yet. He's just Wes, the guy you wave at. So it's just like just the people that we came in contact with. We were just in the zeitgeist. We were like in the mix. Like or some people say zeitgeist. Sorry. We were in that moment of like everybody doing that thing right at the 99-2000 moment. And of course the Y2K thing was happening, and it was kind of hilarious. And then we were all going to die.
Yeah, I remember that.
You had to party like really hard, and so then, of course, none of that happened.
No.
We're all still here.
Hey, and we were all supposed to be gone by 2012 too, right? Wasn't there like some planet that was going to hit us or something? Or I don't know.
Keep waiting. I keep paying bills. That sucks.
Yeah. Huh?
So
can't get around that.
At some point, right? So then we decided that we needed to be a part of the LA scene. So we went out to Los Angeles. and tried to see, what was so great about LA, and because we heard about it, it's everybody's dream to go to Hollywood and be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
But honestly, there's more opportunities in other places because the LA scene is so saturated. The good news about LA is, well, it's fantastic. You get the best movies, the best premieres, the best people, the best everything. So you have access to everybody and everything. And also, because everyone's there, it's like a college dorm experience where, like, everyone knows everybody. You can just call, text, drop by, lunch, whatever, and you can make deals really quickly. So once you have your foot in the door, things go really quickly. They can also go off the tracks really quickly. And then it's years later that you look back and go, oh, that's how I messed all that up. Dang it. So that's really the arc of my experience, was like, go to LA, get really excited, get a lot of hype on my scripts, and then the momentum built, and everybody wanted to be part of me, and everybody wanted to talk to me, and I'm taking meeting after meeting after meeting, and it just goes in a blur. And then you say one wrong thing in one wrong meeting, like, they asked me at CAA, they wanted to rep me, they wanted to sign me as a writer-director, and even an actor. They're going to throw me in a bunch of stuff, like Sidney Pollack. And I was like, okay, cool. And then we're in there, and they gave me a list of actors that they repped, and they were like, "Here's all the actors who are available. We can request any, send the script to any of them." I mean, I had the world handed to me, and I'm like, "Okay, this is great." I'm looking at the names, I'm like, "This is fantastic." Okay, yeah, I'm just like, get a pen, let me check off every single one I want. And then I'll never forget, the agent I'm talking to, she says, "So is the project unencumbered? It has no other investors?" And I was like, "Oh no, I do have some preliminary investors." And I should have said, they're going through my company, they'll be pushed through my percentage. And that's where I messed up. And she was like, "Oh, okay. So you do have attachments. All right, so we'll be in touch." And that was it.
Yep. As soon as you hear the "we'll be in touch."
It was done. One mistake, and it was done. So if I just said, "No, it's totally unencumbered, everything's fine," at least it would have bought me time to go to my lawyers, to go to my investors and say, "We have a choice. This is the deal." They would have said yes. They would have absolutely said, "Go ahead and dilute my investment because it'll get made and I'll get paid." And I could have made choices out of my portion of the profits to give them more money. It wouldn't have been a problem.
Yep.
So, but I was so naive. There was no mentor leading me through this whole thing and holding my hand and showing me the way. I was just winging it. So that's probably my number one greatest regret of everything I've ever done, was that moment. If I had that moment to redo, I would be signed with CAA, and the rest, as I say, would be history, because I would be down a different path. I'd be actually making movies and in the mix. And I always believe that you just get that one big break and then you're in. Once you're repped, you're in. The difficult part is getting the agent. If you can get signed, then you can make deals because people will talk to you. Your work is protected. When I was putting my work out there in LA, I was incredibly naive, and I gave it to a casting director who loved it and was auditioning once I got my own. After that deal with CAA fell through, I raised my own money, and I got my own financing. And we're doing our own casting, and we've got, this is right before Avengers, any of the Avengers, before Iron Man, before all of it. There was this group of actors that were hot, and everybody was passing them around. This was you have to audition this list of people. So I saw Jeremy Renner and Chris Evans and Holmesworth and everyone, every single one of the Avengers except the top build people. I didn't get to meet Iron Man, but Robert Downey Jr. is a little bit busy, and he doesn't audition that way. Not that he won't audition; it's just he doesn't audition that way.
Right.
So he's going to be.
And I had explained that in
fully funded.
I had explained that in one of my vlogs. I had mentioned that in the Hollywood scene, a lot of times you didn't really. If you're an A-list actor, you're not going into audition. You're just kind of going in for a meeting. You go in just to see if you're the right fit, or if that A-lister is the right fit for that film. That was basically right.
Yeah, if I had actually gotten to meet Robert and we had sat down in a room, we would have clicked. Our personalities, our sense of humor, our sarcasm. We would have. I know he would have wanted to work with me, because I love actors who improv and explore. I'm an actor's director, and that's two big compliments that I've been given by Hollywood. One, I'm absolutely an actor's director, so actors trust me, and they know that they'll be respected. They can improv, they can move, they can do what they need to do to get there. Again, it's primarily, I'm an actor, so I respect the actor's craft. I understand where they're coming from because I started as an actor. And then I've been writing since I was 8 years old, short stories and then screenplays, and never finished a novel. I'll admit that. I'm still working on that. But the great pain of where's the ending? 1,800 pages. I don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, I think that's why I like screenwriting. It's here's how many pages you have. Do it within this structure. Okay, I can play that game. And the second compliment I always get from writers, directors, actors, casting directors, anyone in Hollywood, producers, anyone who reads my scripts, they love my dialogue. Love my dialogue. Yeah. They say I'm a little bit skimpy on the action descriptions, and I'm like, well, you're the director, fill in the blank. It's not my responsibility. I put chase scene, action scene, whatever, I don't care. This is a reaction because when I first started writing, and I entered a bunch of screenwriting competitions, the judges would come back and say, you're too wordy on description. There's too much description. You have blocks of text. We don't like it. Right. So I kept getting 25th place instead of 5th place or whatever because of that. So as I honed my craft in competition after competition, I'd go up the rankings because I was doing what they said to do, which was concentrate on a more succinct way of the description. So, I got up to the top rankings in screenwriting competitions, but all I would win is maybe $100, maybe $250, maybe the top prize was once $1,000, and that was really flattering, but it didn't come with an agent. It didn't come with a production deal. Right. It didn't come with anything. So it was great for feedback. Yes, I know what I'm doing. Yes, people like my work, but it's not getting made. So that frustrated me. So I had to move out of that and into my own production space. So when I got all these deals out in LA, it was really frustrating. I started to feel like I was I had some kind of curse on me because I'm being told your writing is amazing. We love you as a writer. You're an actor's director. You're an actor's writer. Your dialogue's amazing. And then no one would sign me. No agent wanted to be yep, I'm going to rep you, and you have this amazing work. I want to sell it. It wasn't happening, and I don't know why. I still don't know why. I was even willing to sell my screenplays and let other people direct them, but they got the impression that I wanted to be some auteur writer-director. That's just my personality. I just get passionate about things. So if you want to fund my movie, of course I'll direct it. But if you feel like I don't have the track record, because none of my work is distributed, I've made a lot of movies, but I haven't distributed it. So I can understand why they'd be nervous about me as an investment, but if you like my script, go take it, sell it, buy it, develop it. I'm not overly attached to it. So that was really weird. So what ended up happening is the casting director loved it. We're using it to audition my actors. And then she goes, can I show this to my friends? And I was naive again, stupid. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? So she shows it to all the casting directors in LA. They all circulate it. They all use it in all of their audition rooms. And then two years later, Saw 2 comes out, and my dialogue is on the screen. And I'm listening to my dialogue coming out of those characters' mouths. And they even have my character names. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, they didn't bother to hide it at all.
I was shocked. I was upset. I was crying. I was like, am I in a Twilight Zone episode? What is going on? So I called my lawyer. My lawyer calls around, and we couldn't sue. They had changed it just enough that they were well within the copyright laws. Yep. Copyright laws need to be changed. Let me tell you that. If you're hearing your exact dialogue coming out of the screen, right. I don't know how a judge says, oh no, they wrote that. I clearly had copyright 5 years before that movie came out. So it was just insane.
And I saw that.
They have little tricks. They'll have, because Saw 2 was in development for so long, they could somehow prove that they had similar ideas. And it was a similar script. The basic idea was people trapped in a room having it out. I couldn't argue that. So I lost on the premise. Because you can't, the individual lines are not protected. The whole concept is. Right. The work as a whole is. They didn't steal the whole work. They stole bits and pieces out of it. This section of the scene they liked, and then this section. So they just took whatever they liked, wrote around it, and created their thing out of it.
Yeah.
I don't blame them. It was great. It's a great script. And it was fun to see it on screen. I was like, look, it would have worked. I did it. That's so cool. So that part was flattering and fun. But then I I pitched my work to Morgan Creek, closed.
Yeah.
There were 4 others that I pitched to, like, these very low end, very indie, very small boutique studios. And as soon as they would say yes, and I would sign a contract, between 1 to 5 days later, they would go bankrupt. Or be bought out by someone else, and then my project would get shelved because all of the whoever bought them, they wanted to do their projects. So mine just got, so I got put into turnaround a couple of times, which delayed me because I had to wait for my rights back. I'd have to move on to another project while that one was in limbo and waiting for a year to pass so that the option would expire and I'd get my rights back. And then the best one, my favorite. So I make my way into the circle is like large, and then as you get to know people and they like you and they like your work, you get to meet more important people, and the circle gets tighter and tighter. So I was invited to Paramount Lot to watch a screening, and I'm there. Jude Law's there, and he's such a nice man. If I ever get to meet, oh my God, I met him, but if I ever get to work with him, he is so nice.
Yeah.
He's just so genuinely great. What a great person. So I'd love to work with Jude Law. And Sarah Miller, I met her, we were chatting, and so it was like this great mix of amazing actors, writers, and directors, and producers. And then Sherry Lansing was there. And I love Sherry Lansing. She is just one of my idols. She is just such an inspiration. And I loved her choices. I loved how she built the Paramount brand.
I was working there when Sherry was there.
You were there when Sherry was there?
Yeah.
That's right. Is that how we got to that screening? Was because of you? Were you the connection to Paramount? Because I can't remember exactly. Yeah,
because
so it was you.
Yeah, and then I had worked for, I'm blanking on her name. I had worked in this one department that she was the executive director of acquisitions. And and I was able to I brought your script in to have them read it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they did, and they loved it. So thank you for that, because that's the only way I worked my way up. Because just meeting her, we chatted, and I said I'd love it if you'd read my script. And she said, yes, of course. But then you had to do the work on the other side, actually getting it to the right people and funneling it through. And it went through 4 people before it got to Sherry's desk, and everyone loved it. They kept saying approve.
Susan Glatzer. That was it, Susan Glatzer. Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Thank you. I was blanking too. So we finally makes it to Sherry's desk. She loves it. She calls me and says, I'm going to buy it. We're going to produce it. This is amazing. Can't wait to make it. Can't wait to work with you. I was so happy, elated, crying. I'm like, oh my God, my dreams are coming true. This is amazing. I get to work for Sherry Lansing. This is like everything I've ever wanted. Literally the next morning, I get a call from her secretary, from her assistant. I'm so very sorry. I have bad news. Sherry was asked to retire today, and all of her projects are shelved.
Oh.
I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And it was so fast. I didn't even have a contract to go around and say, Sherry said yes. Like, here's my contract. It's in turnaround. Like, please. I couldn't even prove that any of that happened. I was like, oh my God, this sucks.
Oh my God.
So that was the best day and the worst day within 24 hours. I had the best and the worst.
Yeah, I remember that. I do.
It was terrible. So that was, that was the peak of my experience in LA and the greatest disappointment of my film life. It was that was devastating. That took a few years to get over, and I couldn't stop. I had to privately get over it, but publicly I had to just keep going. There was no stopping. The train was going. So that's when I looked for private investing.
Right.
And then that was fun. We had Samwise Gamgee. Sean Austin. He wanted to play the lead, and then it just wasn't right in the negotiating timing wise. He had a couple other projects that were coming up, so we couldn't make it work, so he had to bow out. And then Jeremy Renner said yes. That was amazing. So Jeremy Renner, right before Avengers, right before Hawkeye, he was going to play the lead in our movie. So that
Rutger Hauer too, right?
What's that?
Rutger Hauer as well, correct?
I was about to say yes, and Rutger Hauer was very, very excited about the project, helped me do a rewrite, had some really great ideas. so I incorporated all of his ideas in there. We experimented, and it turned it into a much better script because I had it so that he was not physically in a room, but on a screen, and he was like, what about a hologram? That I could be in the room and interacting with them. And we had such great ideas because of that. Like, one character tried to punch him because they thought he was real. It was great. They're like suffering from delusions, and they like try to choke him. It was like, so that was going to be such a great moment. So yeah, he was phenomenal and such a tremendous force, a creative force. Biggest hands, oh my gosh, he was such a big guy, like almost, 6.5 feet tall and just broad chested and huge, and his hands were so big. And when I shook his hand, like I felt like a little girl,
like the sausage fingers.
Big sausage fingers, like this huge dude.
Yeah,
gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Those blue eyes.
Oh, the eyes. Yeah, I remember that.
Gray hair.
Yeah.
He was just a gorgeous human being, and so smart, so funny, such a great guy, and such a professional. Just like did everything the way it's supposed to be done. Just a consummate professional. So he was phenomenal, and he was funny. He kept joking with me because we're shooting in Austin, and he's from LA, and he kept saying that, oh, put it in my contract that I want to drive my Hummer from LA to Austin.
Oh, jeez.
I want to have it for around the town use. And I was like, come on, no. I'm not even going to say, are you kidding? I know you're kidding. But he kept saying it. Every time we'd be like finalizing the contract, I don't see my Hummer in this one.
Oh, jeez.
So he was great. He was so funny. He would pull that kind of stuff on me all the time. So he was a lot of fun. And we had it all set up, had all the money, had all the actors, all the contracts were signed. Everything was great. And then I forgot which part of it ruined the other part, but we had money that was promised, and we needed to get match money, and match money was dependent on, and I don't remember what it was dependent on because it wasn't an actor. I had my actors lined up. I don't remember what the deal breaker was, but there was one linchpin that fell through, so my secondary funds fell through, and that meant my primary funds fell through. So I went from almost $2 million to down to $500,000. And, 500,000 is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But it wasn't enough to make the movie at the level we wanted to make it with the stars we wanted. Because above the line, like the 500,000 was mainly for making the movie. And then I was trying to get the other money to pay for the actors, because it's not just their salary. It's flying them in and housing them and all the support stuff. So really, whatever you're paying them, double it, because that's what it's going to cost to actually get them to do the stuff. And then Rutger was so cool when I had a very limited budget. He was the only, like Jeremy, it wasn't going to work out because he was going to have to physically be on set. So I had to let that contract go. And then right after that, he got Avengers. So anyway, if I had kept him in the contract, I could have used that to get the money. So there were so many near misses that I'm just like so aggravated by. Now that I look back on it and I know so much more, if I just used that contract as leverage, that would have gotten the movie made. But oh well, say la vie.
Yep.
So Rutger was still attached, and he was so sweet. He said, well, you still have enough in the budget to pay me. I'll reduce my fee because instead of doing 2 weeks, I'll do 3 days, and we'll do it on a green screen. You just come in and, pop in for a couple days. We can get it done in 2 or 3 days, and I'll chop my fee in half, and then you won't have to worry about flying me out, housing me, per diems, all that. It'll just be my salary.
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
great.
You're a genius.
Yeah.
So generous. He loves, he's passed. He loved independent filmmaking.
Yep.
He loved acting. So any chance he had to get on screen, he wanted it. And he didn't really care if it was a $5 million, $25 million, $250 million, or $500,000. Like, he didn't care what your budget was.
I remember that, about him.
He cared about your passion.
Yeah.
So that was just, I had never had an actor so generous before, that it was just like, let's just figure it out. I still want to be in it. I still want you to make this movie. And even that, I couldn't. I had difficulty coordinating with Los Angeles, and the timing was off again, and then he got booked. So by the time I was trying to make the entire movie happen, so then I thought, okay, I'm going to wait it out, and I wait for Rutger's schedule to open up again. And in the meantime, I'll spend a little bit of my budget on getting this sizzle reel done, and then we could take that out and raise more money. So I tried that. I got, kind of temporary actors just to get a feeling for, like, this is what it'll look like. This is my style as a director.
Your set photographer.
exactly. You took amazing photos, by the way. They're absolutely gorgeous. I look at them a lot on my phone and just reminisce.
It was fun. It was a great time.
Spectacular.
Thanks.
They're beautiful photos. So thank you for that. That was great work.
Thank you.
It was great. You were tremendously talented, so thank you.
Appreciate it.
And no problem. And I appreciate you doing that. And then it was a good time. It was a lot of fun. We worked with Robert Rodriguez's core crew. Mm-hmm. And they're a little kind of like troupe of drone. And so it was his cinematographer and his camera crew. And so I had the whole unit, and they were amazing. Plus a couple ancillary people. And some people in Austin who are just phenomenal. They are independent, they can work on any budget film. But it was assistant directors and even right down to the interns that we got from UT. Just spectacular group of people. Yep. So we had a really great crew, really amazing crew. I understand completely why people would want to film and shoot and work in Austin. It's a little mini LA. I just wish Texas had tax breaks. If we had a better tax structure for film, we would be a second Hollywood. No doubt about it. We'd be another Atlanta. We'd be the hot place to make movies. Yeah. It's ripe for that. And I give credit to Rick Perry when he was governor. He had some tax incentives around that time period that we used, and we were kind of also utilizing tax incentives that were in Louisiana at the time. So the two together, we were like going to do production in Austin and post work in New Orleans, and it was going to work. And we were going to do some production in Shreveport, and we were going to make it all work. We had it all figured out. We understood the tax vouchers. We understood everything. It was going to be great. The timing was off. It just kept taking so long to get everything going that by the time we got it going, it would be too late. We would just we got to each checkpoint.
Okay, we're back. Everybody, the battery died, as it is usual with Matt Baker and his vlogs, and I had to get rid of the bugs that were on here, those sports bugs, because that just happens. So anyway, we had lost what we were talking about. We're going to jump back into that, and that was you were talking about how you transitioned from putting your current project on hold and getting into what is now a family business of owning a restaurant. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that restaurant.
Oh, sure. So because of COVID and the lockdown, independent film kind of got crushed. So we weren't able to make anything independent for a while. It just, we didn't have the money to do a bubble, and God bless those who could, because it kept people working. And that was really important during the lockdown. But it just wasn't possible at an indie level to do what the pros were doing. So we just had to wait it out. And I had to have income in the meantime. So a friend of mine was selling his restaurant, and so I bought it. It's just I love the pizza. I love the atmosphere. It's fun. And it's something that we can do while we're waiting to make movies again. Yeah. So we turned it into a family business, and my mom helps out, and my husband's brother works for us and helps us out, and they're amazing. Family's going to, of course, go above and beyond and care like you do. Right. So they've been phenomenal, and we get to have fun. It's just, making pizza is a lot of fun. You play music, you bop around, you're singing and dancing, making the orders and talking to the customers and eating the food, and it's just so much fun. It's like playtime every day.
Yeah,
I guess it gets serious during the rush, but that's that.
Right. Back when I was in college at San Francisco State, a friend of mine, he owned a pizza place, and it was right near St. Mary's. So this was in kind of the Berkeley area, but anyway, St. Mary's College. And so he would have like a pizza, like a beer night, he would have a special beer night. So all of our friends, we would go there and help him out for the night, and he wouldn't pay us. We would just basically, we would get to drink as much beer as we want. So you have to imagine how this turned out. Yeah. So we get to drink the beer, and we're serving beer to college students and checking IDs, of course. And we're drinking beer, and we're getting pizza, and we just had a tip jar. So by the end of the night, we would just, spread around the tip money. But that was a blast. We had so much fun doing that. It was just, I don't know if it was a Taco Tuesday or a $1 beer night or whatever it was, but it was a blast. I had a lot of fun doing that. Yeah, pizza places are great, especially when they're near colleges too.
Oh yeah, we have it, and it's near 2 high schools and a college. So we get all the high school kids in. for all their middle school. So we get like anytime they have a sports event, a choir, orchestra, band, theater, like we get slammed. So it's a lot of fun.
Good.
But yeah, I mean, it's just something to do in the meantime, because like right now things are back to normal, so I can get back to film production. And I have a couple of scripts in the pre-writing stages. I've been kind of like working on the ideas, getting them on paper, working out the character sketches. So those scripts won't be ready till probably next year. But the one that is completed, and we were already in development, and we had cast it and crewed up and I had rented the set, which was a rental house that we were getting ready. We were furnishing it, we were painting it, we were decorating it. We had a full cast signed and ready to go. We had a full crew on hold with a deposit. And then the lockdown happened, so I had to release all the contracts for the actors, and some of them moved, some of them went to college. The crew, of course, got released, and that I can re-up any time, but I just have to, the timing. They're 6 months out booked, so I can't do anything for a good 6 months. So now it's the time to book the crew and do the casting and just like get everything back up and running. And I think this is just as hard as shutting it down. It's more heartbreaking to shut it down, but to get it back up and going and get the momentum going and get the budget going and everything independent stuff. Now, you know what? I'm going to stop. Everything in filmmaking is so hard. I don't care what level you're at. Even if you're at the top level, you've got all the access to all the money, it's still hard. It's the hardest thing to do, like you'll ever do in your entire life. I have done so many other jobs, been in so many other businesses, and the only hard part about other businesses would be people. If they have emotional stuff going on, or a crisis of emergency, an illness, that kind of stuff is difficult for scheduling. But there's always someone to cover. There's always something you can do. The show must go on in that capacity. But with film, there are so many moving parts, and it has to all align at the same time. And like I said earlier, I was having this crisis where I was having an epidemic of bad timing. It was just chronic for years, bad timing. Just I kept missing all those opportunities. So I guess COVID was good in a way that it was a reset. It just made me stop and think and reassess everything I was doing and how I was doing it. So this time around, I'm going to be different.
See, now for me, COVID was a little different experience because, as you know, I was at the Writers Guild, and that was the job that I had. I enjoyed it, but I was kind of out of, believe it or not, even though you're still in the biz, I really wasn't in it. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't making any short films. I wasn't doing anything. I was just going to work, coming home, blah, 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 back and forth.
Wow.
And,
oh, God, really?
Yeah, and then when
you weren't doing anything outside of that?
Nope.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know.
So happy.
Yeah. And by the time...
you loved the job, but you were kind of dissatisfied.
Right. And by the time that COVID had hit, they had sent us home and said, hey, we're going to get back to you. We'll let you know when everybody can come back to work. And days turned into weeks, which turned into a month or so. And at that point, that's when I was like, I got to do something. And okay, so here's a quick little backstory about YouTube and vlogging and whatnot. So it was, I want to say, right before COVID, maybe February, maybe January. So my son is in his room, and I'm gonna, it's a weekend. I'm bored. I'm thinking maybe put a movie on or something. So I go by his room and I say, hey, do you want to watch a flick? You want to watch a movie or something? And he said, no, that's okay. I'm just watching a YouTuber. And I'm like, what the fluff is a YouTuber? I mean, I'm serious. I didn't even know. And I was like, what is that? And he goes, oh, it's just these guys that make these videos. And I go, on YouTube, right? I'm thinking YouTube is tutorials of how to fix your car,
You were hilarious.
I swear to God, I didn't.
Showing your age.
I thank you very much. Yes, I am. I really didn't know, because at the Writers Guild it was mainly just film, television. Yes, there was internet, but you never really heard about. I mean, you heard about YouTube, but not. There weren't contracts for YouTube, at the Writers Guild. Never.
No.
So
that was such an explosion during the lockdown.
Right.
That's when YouTube and TikTok and Twitch,
yeah.
like all of that became very serious business and very lucrative.
Well, and that's the thing. So I said to him, I said, so what are you watching? And he's like, oh, it's just some dude doing like a bunch of kick moves on a skateboard and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And I go, and people watch this? And he's like, yeah. He goes, yeah, this guy's got like a couple thousand views already. And I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, oh yeah, there's people out there, they make a ton of money doing this. And I go, you don't say. Really? Tell me more. And he's like, oh yeah, some guys, they have like thousands of subscribers, million subscribers. And then all of a sudden, my daughter at the time, so this was 2 years ago, she's 7, so she was 5 years old. She's watching YouTube, and she's watching like the little kid channels. And so I start going on there, and I'm looking at some of these. I mean, they're just like unboxing of toys, and I'm like, you watch this, honey? She goes, yeah. And I look, and they've got like 3 million subscribers, and I'm like, what? Yeah. For opening toys? 3 million subscribers?
Great. And you're like, yeah.
I'm like,
for hours.
I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to start making some YouTube vlogs. It can be lucrative. You get some you get some ad revenue, and you get the viewership, and it can really take off.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
However, I do feel that it was kind of a hair trigger decision for us to move, because I had lost the job. Well, I lost the job in LA, and we just felt like LA was kind of transitioning into something different. It just seemed the vibe. You remember the vibe in LA. It was like everybody, your buddy, your neighbor, everybody's doing something in the industry.
Oh yeah.
And then it's just like, it just felt like I wasn't in that clique of being in the industry anymore. I mean, it seemed like every weekend when I was just trying to get involved was like I was working for free. I was a boom mic guy. I was shooting B-roll. I was, heck, people would say, hey, can you deliver a line for me? We just need something, all these little independent films. And that's just, you get used to that, and you do that, and it's fun. And then when you get into the job of doing the office job, it was just like that part of the creativity died. It just really did, and it's sad. And then we decided, hey, let's move to Castle Rock, Colorado, because our friends live here. And we came here, and I feel like a part of me, honestly, has died, because that creativity back in LA, I left that there. Even though I wasn't doing it with the job, I still feel like part of it's there. And I'm trying to recapture that now, and it's hard. It really is, trying to get back into it. But it's something that I got to keep plugging away at. And I miss it. Once I started getting back into it, I'm like, oh, this is why it was so much fun. Like doing the more photography aspect of it. You're
a tremendous photographer.
Thank you.
If you focused on being an on-set photographer, that's where you would find your niche.
Yeah.
And you really should look into cinematography. Like, you really should put your effort into learning how to be the best cinematographer in your area, and then put it out there. Start with the independent stuff that needs a DP, but then also look at commercials, music videos, look at industrials, anything that's going on in your city or near you, any bigger city, and then apply to somewhere you can drive or fly to. So apply to Dallas and Houston and Austin, and get those gigs, because hell, you can come out and be my cinematographer. Like, get it on the resume. Get the.
I like where you're going with this.
Okay, yeah, because you are that good, and I think you've never taken yourself seriously. I haven't, and I regret it, because I'm going to admit something here. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a woman.
No.
Shocking. And so I don't mean to play the sexist card, okay, but obviously there's been a Me Too movement and a Men Too movement and a documentary on Netflix, or maybe 5 of them at this point, and everyone's talking about the fact that there was a double standard for a long time. And when I was coming up in the ranks in the 90s, it was all about Kevin Smith and the Harvey Weinstein kind of clique, and Quentin Tarantino and everybody. And being friends with all of those people, didn't get me any deals. Now, I'm going to say right now, I've never been harassed. I have never been assaulted. I have never had any unprofessional experiences with anyone in Hollywood.
Right.
Ever. But I have been on the receiving end of a lack of confidence when it comes to, well, you're a woman. You don't have a track record. I don't have a track record because I'm a woman. There's a catch-22 that I could never break through. Everything was always 4 times harder for me. And I watched as my buddies, who were males, gave each other projects just because they went to college together, or they went to a master's program at USC together, or they hung out at the same bar. So I couldn't compete with that boys club no matter what I did. I was just as smart, just as talented, just as funny, just as great, and they didn't want to work with me. And I think that's what the whole sexual predator thing did to Hollywood. That some women were the victims of it.
Oh, yeah.
All of us were the victims of it on the opposite end. That the attitude was, you can't let a girl into this clique because then we can't say the things we want to say. And we can't act the way we want to act. We can't be the boys around the girl. And this is how much regret I have about how willing I was to go along with some BS to try and get into the inner circles to get the work. I pretended that kind of locker room humor was okay. And I would even participate in these very derogatory jokes towards women and objectifying bodies. And I would try to act like one of the guys. Like, I just thought, well, if they see me as cool and they know they can be themselves around me, then they'll give me the job. Then it'll be okay. But they didn't. There was a wall that I could not get through. I was not allowed. And I still don't understand how some of my female friends have made it. Like, I'm still amazed. And it's because they worked with female producers.
Yeah.
And because I was so busy trying to get into the boys club, I didn't nurture the female relationships like I should have. And that I feel stupid for, because I just didn't get what was going on. I didn't see it. Now I do. But, I have a couple of friends who are incredibly successful and signing deals, and they happen to be women. They're really, really talented. And for a while, I was mentored by Nicole Hofsener, and she is phenomenal. She taught me so much. But what she said, very honestly, is I cannot teach you how to get your movie made. I cannot teach you how to get a deal done. I don't even know. I rely on these 5 people, and they help me. And I don't even know how they do it, because it's a miracle we get anything done ever. And I agree with that. I think that's been the biggest problem, is just even breaking in and getting financing and being trusted. So that's why I chose to try to do things independently. And that's been 1,000 times harder, because I'm trying to do it all by myself.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing with YouTube. I'm trying to do everything by myself, but then you see these, these vlogs, these YouTube vlogs, and people say, the best thing to do is collaborate with other YouTubers, and you can really get going because you're going to work with them. And that's the essential of my channel, is I want to do that a day with, and reach out to other YouTubers and do behind the scenes with them on their vlog to find out more about them, how they tick, what they shoot on, what they edit on. And then going from there and then doing a little behind the scenes of their vlog. So that's what I want to do mine on. It's just trying to get some of these people to be like, yeah, you've got 70 subscribers and I'm not going to bother, it's just, well, I do. I've reached out to a lot of them. I do. I reach out to a lot of them.
And they don't get back to you?
A lot of them, no. And I just, it is frustrating, but I think that once 1 or 2 would be like, yeah, let's do this. And I think you have to be on the same plateau. So I think what I'm doing is I'm here and I'm trying to find these YouTubers that are way up here, and they're looking down going, I'm not going to bother. I got to find the ones that are at the same level that would want to work. And I think once that gets going, then people can come to my channel and say, hey, you know what, I want to go to Matt's channel because I know he's helped promoting. I mean, that's basically what it is. I want to help promote other YouTubers. And once those people start getting views, then those people would say, hey, yeah, I want to use that guy because, you know, and have him do my vlog. And then that will just snowball and snowball and snowball, and it would just keep going.
I think it's a great idea.
It's got to take time. And never giving up.
At least a year. Yeah. Everything I'm doing, I'm going to start my own channel, and I've been researching, like, what do I want to do with my vlogs, and what do I want to present on my channel. And so I've done a ton of research. And yeah, it takes at least a year to, you know, solid content, and you need to be posting minimally one video per week, and then promoting that one video per week. And so the research says that if you get to 1,000 subscribers, that's when things shift.
Yeah, the
and
algorithms.
You've built enough momentum, and then things will get better.